Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to take 3 pictures and make a composite in Photoshop so that you can turn in your ETTR pictures. So we'll just imagine that these 3 pictures are the pictures that you're planning on using for your ETTR. I've selected them by holding Command button while I clicked them. So I've got all 3 selected. And you can see that all 3 are selected in this window. Now I'm going to just right click on any one of them and I get a context menu. I'm just going to click open, but it should default to opening in Photoshop. You could check with the open with dialog and go down and you can see it says that Photoshop is the default. I'm just going to click that. Now it opens all 3 pictures in Photoshop. You can see that there are tabs at the top of this window, and those tabs basically show you each of the 3 pictures. I can click on them and you can see that the pictures change. Okay, that's because each of these 3 pictures is open as a tab. Now what I need to do is make sure that all 3 pictures are the same size. Let's just go ahead and start with looking at one of them. We're going to go to Image, and we're going to go down to Image Size. Okay, now it tells you in inches and it also tells you in pixels. So in inches, this is really ridiculously large, and it's going to make a really ridiculously large picture as well. So what we want to do is just dial this down, and let's make it a little more manageable for what we're going to turn in. We don't need anything very large. And so we're just going to change the inches here to something a little more reasonable, like maybe 6 inches wide. And you see that the height automatically changed. That's because this little chain link is linked. If that link was not linked, in other words, if I click it to unlink it, which it's not doing, well, probably need to do this. Okay, then basically it takes away the link. And what that link does is it basically makes it so that the size stays the same in one dimension to match any changes made in the other dimension. If I unclick it, then I can change one dimension and not change the other. In other words, I could make the width 6 and the height would still be 16 inches wide. So we're going to go 6. And for the resolution, we're not really going to be printing these, so it's okay. But I say that even if you're not printing them, you should probably have over 100. So we're going to go to 150, just to make it a little bit sharper. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and change it. Now, so I'm going to need to remember this. I changed the width to 6. The height was a little over 4.5, and the resolution was 150. Okay. So I change it. Now I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to make the same changes. So I'm going to go up to Image, Image Size. Now this one's way bigger, but let's see what happens. If I go 6, now see how it's a little bit narrower. I'm okay with that. And then we're going to change this to 150. And then we're going to say OK. Alright, and then this is the last one. And this one, again, Image, Image Size, change the width to 6. We're back to that same, a little over 4.5 inches, and then 150. Now it's really important that all of them have the same resolution and size. And really the resolution is the most important thing, and you'll see why in a second. Because we do have one that's a little bit smaller than the other ones, and that's okay. Now we're going to use this one, and I'm going to change the canvas size. Okay. Now the reason I'm changing the canvas size is because I'm going to bring in the other ones and attach them to this one so that I have one image that includes all 3. So I'll be able to show my camera exposed image the way that it wants to do it without any adjustments. I can show my exposed to the right version of that same shot. And then I can show the exposed to the right one that's processed to the left. So I can show all 3 of them in one picture. And so this is the way I'm going to do it. I go to Image. Now I go to Canvas Size. Okay, now we've got the canvas size is a width of 6 inches and a height of 4.567. So what I want to do is I want to basically keep my 6-inch width, but I'm going to change my height to 3 times this value. Okay, so that would be 2 times the size. This height would be a little over 9 inches, and 3 times it would be about 13.5 inches. So I'm going to go to 14 inches, and that should get me where I need to be. Okay, we'll see. So I'm going to change just the height, and I'm going to change it to 14 inches. Okay, and now this one that I've selected, I can decide where I want it. Do I want it in the middle? Do I want it at the top? Do I want it at the bottom? So I'm going to just, I guess I'll put it at the top. Okay, and then say OK. Now you can see that the picture that I started with is at the top. Now what I do is I go to my next picture, and I'm just going to select it. So I'm going to hit Command A, and you can see that it's got a little dancing dashed line going around to the side. We call that the marching ants, and so it's got that. And now with that selected, I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and then I go back to my first one, and then I go to Edit, Paste, and there's the second picture. Okay, and now I'm going to go to my third picture, which is not the one that's got the marching ants on it, because I've already, oh, I don't want to close that. Okay, so I'm going to select my third picture. Here we go. Command A selects it. Basically, Command A means select all. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. Copies everything that's selected. And the marching ants, that dotted line that's dancing around, that shows you your selection. Then I'm going to go back to my first picture, and now I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay, now you see that it went on top of the other picture. So now what I need to do is just go over here to the toolbox, which is this menu on the side, and select the Move tool, which is this little cross arrow with a little mouse cursor arrow. So I'm going to click the Move tool, and now with the Move tool I can move something, and what it's going to do is it's going to let me move whichever layer. So whichever layer, and so I can switch layers here. It's going to let me move whichever layer is selected. Okay. Now, if I click right on the object that I want to move, it's obvious it's going to move it. But here's the thing: I'm moving the layer, so I can click outside of it and still get it to move. Okay. And then I'm going to let it go. Now, if I scroll down, I can see that I've got all 3 pictures in one picture. Okay. Now this is really important. All those adjustments that I made to the size, they will be applied to this first picture if I just do a straight save. And I don't want to make these changes over the top of that one. I want to save these as a separate picture. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, okay, and now I'm going to make sure that I change the name. So I'm going to change it to ETTRComposite 1. So you're going to have 5 of these. So, and I don't want it to be a PSD. Don't just change it right here. You want to change it down where it says Photoshop under Format. Click this and then select a more appropriate format, like JPEG. Okay, and now I can go ahead and save it. Now it's really important you don't just write .jpg here. What that does is it changes the name of it to .jpg, but inside it's still a PSD file. And what happens is if it has .jpg at the end of the name, other software is going to think that it's supposed to be a JPEG, and it's going to tell you that the file is broken and that it doesn't work and it's corrupt. And so so you really just need to make sure that you're actually saving it in the right format and not just changing the extension on the name. Okay, and then we're going to figure out where we want to save it. Downloads is fine for me. And then you can decide the quality. Since we're going to be uploading these to 3-ring, it doesn't need to be the greatest quality. I'd say 8 is fine. You don't want to go below 6, and so you could go down to 7 without losing too much. But remember, JPEGs do lose information when you save them, and so if that's going to be at all important, you want to save a large file. We'll say OK. And that is how you make a composite image in Photoshop.